Welcome to Mac and Bleu, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. Now let's join our hosts, Robert Johnson and JJ Levinsky, aka Mac and Bleu.
Welcome to Mac and Bleu. I'm Robert Johnson, Vice President of Business Development with Torrey Contracting. And this handsome gentleman right here, okay, I'll back up. This gentleman right here
Thank you.
is JJ Levinsky, the President of Blue Wave General Contracting. What's happening?
Well, other than the pre-show,
What's happening, handsome? Yeah.
humor between you and I and Sean over here. Oh, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. We were just, for the audience's sake, we were just laughing about how dysfunctional everyone's plans are for Thanksgiving holiday.
Man.
So how about you? Are you normal? Well, hold it. We got to introduce her first.
Well, let's see. Is Brianna normal? No.
Considering her lineage, I know that
That's
for a
right.
fact.
We have Brianna Nessler, who is the marketing manager with Small Giants. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now
you have to
I'll
answer
go
the
back to
okay.
you,
Yes.
JJ.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Are you
you gonna have
normal?
normal Thanksgiving plans?
No, not
Okay.
even close.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually closing on a house on the 22nd of November, and we have to move out of my house on the 25th. So
Oh, man.
our Thanksgiving will likely be spent on the living room floor eating pizza in the new house while unpacking boxes.
It's a repeat from my Thanksgiving last year. We were moving into a new house, no countertops in the kitchen. So my wife, I
never
said,
eaten there
we
anyway.
can wash dishes in the bathtub. Is the man
Well,
thing. Yeah, it wasn't going to work.
Well, and by
So
the
we
time this hits the air, it might be past Thanksgiving
Yeah,
anyway. So for
exactly.
those of you laughing at us,
Yeah.
don't worry, we get laughed at all the time anyway.
Exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
so we digress. Brianna, having you on Mac and Blue, representing Building Arizona. Before we dive into why and all those kind of things, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself, kind of how you got in the biz, and then a lot about your company, and then we'll hammer you with questions.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, I'll start back way back in the day. My grandfather, Ken Nessler, was a founding partner of Sun Valley Masonry, which is the largest masonry
Wow, I
contractor.
did not know that.
Yes.
Well,
Tidbit number one.
And
Yes.
we're going to have them on as guests, I think, in a couple weeks too.
They're
go ahead.
pretty fun. Yes.
Well, at least Todd and Todd.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm with you.
That's her dad.
Okay.
Yes. And like all of the executives of their team have to have the same name. So you have Todd Baum and Todd Nessler, then you have Dave Beer and Dave Peloki.
Yeah.
That's
It's typical Illinois family weirdness,
Yes.
and we can get on that path later.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. So then my dad actually started with Sun Valley shortly after graduating from ASU, and it's been downhill from there. Yes.
If you're listening, Todd, I'll slap her for you.
We probably ought to just stop and start this
Yeah.
whole thing over again. But
Yeah, no, so that was kind of like the first taste in construction for me, was just my dad and my grandfather were so proud of everything that they built on the commercial and residential side. And I remember even at an early age going to my grandfather's new home and him giving me probably like a 30-minute rundown on the type of granite used for his bathtub. So I knew way more about stone than I ever really wanted
you
to.
grew up in it then.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. I actually interned with Sun Valley my junior year in high school. Working on submittals. I got to name certain stones, so like Grand Canyon Red. Yeah,
That's you.
It was all me.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my first taste into marketing for construction. So fast forward after high school, I graduated from the University of Louisville in Kentucky with a degree in psychology and sociology.
What drew you to Louisville?
Yes, good question.
Boy.
No, not quite. But my mom and my stepdad moved out there. And I started at U of A and needed to get more focused on my studies. And so
Never heard that story before.
yes. So ended up moving out to Kentucky to be closer to my mom and my stepdad, and finished school out there, studied psychology and sociology. And
Now, how'd you make that jump from growing up in the industry? What was that? What made you that choice?
Well, That's a great question. I love people, and I loved learning about what influences individuals' decisions. And then I really got into sociology as well. I actually read the book Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. And Morrie was a sociology professor. And so I ended up gravitating towards sociology classes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so much so that I got a minor in sociology.
Well, I could certainly see where that plays into the business development and marketing side. I mean, that clearly does. I'm not teasing. Yeah, because we got to know how you think before we're going to get you.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to make a comment about that.
Yeah, forget it.
I was going to say. All right, let's focus on her, not us.
Okay.
Our dysfunction.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So graduated. Well, my senior year of college, I got into photography and started my own little side hustle, and was just doing like lifestyle family photos and senior portraits, and realized that I really loved marrying up my creative side with that kind of like more psychology focused analytical side. And so I was talking to my dad after I graduated, and I had applied for a few different jobs in Kentucky too, and then I decided that I might start looking into Phoenix. And my dad told me that I should reach out to Danielle Ferraletto, who's the president of Small Giants. And I happened to reach out to her, and they were looking for an operations assistant at the time for their team of 6 people. And then that has really just been downhill from there. And I can pause.
No, go ahead.
And just go back to like who Small Giants is and what they do.
Yeah.
So we're a full-service marketing and business development firm who specialize in commercial real estate and construction. So for me, like when I was looking at the career path to pursue, it was the perfect blend of creativity, industry focused, like going back to my family roots, and then also studying, the psychology behind why people make purchasing decisions and choose to partner with certain companies.
Yeah.
So then go back, what was the history and background of Small Giants before you joined then?
Yeah. So Danielle started Small Giants in 2006, and she has a really amazing, interesting background. She actually has a degree. Her undergrad was in photojournalism, and so she worked for a few different local publications, including, I think it was the Electric Times was one that she worked with. And she grew in that role. She grew the publication, ultimately started working for McGraw-Hill, and then went to Westpac, and she was with Westpac Construction for about 10 years, leading their marketing and business development team, and she helped grow the company tremendously. And then in 2006, she decided she wanted to be serving multiple clients or multiple companies in the capacity that she was for Westpac.
Yeah. So it's funny listening to it. When you started, I'm thinking, well, this is really disjointed. But then as it all came together, it was like, oh, wow. It was almost like that was the plan all along.
Like Forrest Gump, peas and carrots type stuff.
Yeah, it was like, wow, that was really smart.
It's like Forrest and Jenny.
So I'm going to jump and ask this question. Since it's marketing to construction, the AEC community, let's call it, what is the one thing that or the one place you think that all of them tend to fail at, all of us in the industry? What are we not doing right?
That is such a good question.
Do you find a common thread there?
It's challenging to answer because I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all. There's a couple really great firms who do things very well, but I would say the one like where the mark is missed the most is not having a strategy or a strategic plan.
Bingo. Yeah. Man, that's solid. Because how many people get into the construction industry and start a business? Let's not even talk marketing.
Yeah.
Without a plan. I've got a pickup truck and I've got tools, and off you go.
That's the low, what do they call it? I always get this screwed up. Barrier to entry, right? It's pretty easy to become a contractor or a trade or whatever. Other than some simple licensing and some bonding and insurance.
And they usually do that after they get started.
Yeah, you're off and running.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, and then through the maturation cycle, we all reach out to a Brianna at some point and go, hey, we
need a plan.
Yeah.
So you will help.
We're
these
kind of
folks.
plateaued. Help me out.
Interesting. So you will help develop that plan.
Yes. So we facilitate strategic plans often. And then from there, we try to tailor the marketing plans and activities to what best suits the goals. I mean, it's as simple as like a fitness plan. If someone is training for a marathon, there's very specific activities that they need to be doing in order to be able to effectively run the marathon. And there's even like the right type of shoes, the right type of stretches, the right diet. Are you drinking enough water? And there's so many different factors. And that type of plan would be totally different than someone who's doing a fitness competition, And so it's really making sure marketing activities and strategic plans are the same way. You have to tailor the activities to meet your goals and objectives as a firm. And you also have to know what those goals and objectives are first.
Because you represent such a large part of our brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it, because you guys specialize in real estate and construction, what is, like for the audience sake, what is the core makeup of a day of in the life of Brianna? What do you actually do,
Oh, there is no day in the life. It's every day's different, which is what I also very much love. Yeah. So there's certain companies who engage us on a retainer basis, and so we're meeting with them monthly to reflect on their marketing activities, and we might also be doing, their social media management, so posting on their social media platforms. We might be also monitoring paid ads, so if they're recruiting specific employees or maybe they're entering into a new geographic market and trying to build brand awareness out there, we're monitoring those campaigns. And then coming back and reporting back to the clients and seeing what's next. Is it an award? Is it a press release opportunity? Is it an event?
You said something that really kind of hit home, and I think we in the construction space maybe are a little bit behind. I can't speak to the real estate, but when you said marketing to future employees, do you find yourself and Small Giants more and more recruiting and setting brand awareness for the human capital versus the next deal?
Very much so.
And then
Probably.
again, how does that all work? What does it look like?
Yeah.
How do you peel back that onion?
Totally. So yes, we, especially over the last year and a half since COVID and since the Great Resignation really came and hit so many of us.
He didn't resign though. He's
Well, that's
still here.
good.
I'm not leaving.
We still love you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. Yes. So over the last year and a half, we've really seen an uptick in recruiting campaigns and just overall recruiting-centric marketing. And again, it all starts with a strategy. And I would say if we're peeling back the layers, the component that's most important of the business strategy there is really what we call the brand journey. So defining your purpose statement, so why you exist as a firm, and your purpose is something that should light a fire in every single employee's belly. They all need to be aligned and energized by that common purpose. And then
So something beyond a value statement usually.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where I think a lot of companies do miss the mark is they want to write their purpose statement or mission statement in-house, and they do it in 30 minutes or they're doing it at night quickly, and it's not something that the entire team is giving input on, or even if it's just like a survey, but something that truly aligns the team and brings unity. So having that purpose and then core values. So what are those behaviors that underlie all that you do internally amongst your team members and then externally with your clients? So anyone who interacts with you or any of your team members should be experiencing those core values lived out. And then also it's understanding what differentiates you as an employer. So a lot of times we think about what our differentiator is for our clients, but what's your differentiator as an employer? Why do people want to come and work for you? Why do they want to stay there? That's really a key component in attracting and retaining talent.
So how do you, so let's say you have one of your clients, which is, again, one of our sister or brother companies. If you find that ecosystem, that quan that they have, how do you then market that? Like, how do you because that's what they're coming to you for. Like, okay, Brianna, I have this bit of uniqueness. Now go leverage this. Is that easy for you guys, or is that the hard part?
It's a fun challenge, and we've done a few campaigns like that. It's almost a new service that we've launched this year as a response to the need for recruiting marketing, and we'll craft an entire campaign. So what we've been doing is we'll meet with the members of the leadership team, and sometimes we'll conduct employee surveys, and even if it's as simple as getting a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to understand what the team members are seeing as well, because sometimes the leadership team might think that their distinction or their differentiator is much different than what the employees are actually experiencing. So it's important to understand both sides, so we have that alignment. And then we really dig into that differentiator. And one of my favorite case studies is from earlier this year, we worked with a general contractor out in Denver, and they specialize in multifamily housing, specifically in wood frame construction. And their president described it well in saying that it was like they do dirty work. It's hard, it's messy construction, it's expensive, it's challenging, there's multiple variables, and it's much more labor intensive. And as we began to dig into their brand and what differentiates them is they want people who thrive in that challenging environment. And that's what, they want people who are energized by that. And so we tried to create this campaign about the A-team and talking about, these are the varsity players who want to challenge themselves. They want to be stretched as much as they can because they know in the end they're going to be the best version of themselves and will have all of these learning and growth opportunities through the work that they're doing.
What I find is the common thread here is that you push them to include. Now we're talking at every level we've spoken about so far is to include all the worker bees, get everybody involved in it. So many times I've been involved with firms that do the things that you're talking about, but it's back to that. It's senior level people. It's the owner only. It's the that are setting all of these things and getting no buy-in from, and so it's just this disjointed group that feels disjointed.
Yes.
So it seems there's wisdom in creating all of this as a team.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting.
My mind's going 800 miles an hour here, Brianna, because one of the things on your pre-work, you had career pathing for young professionals, and then you also just described like how you're recruiting for that. Just so you're aware, on a lot of the previous episodes we've had, it's all about how do we, as an industry, do a better job of recruiting and retaining young talent. So through your eyes as kind of a young person, and you had a very unique upbringing and connection to the industry, but what advice can you give to the industry right now through your eyes of not only from what you did, from the marketing standpoint, what you're doing, but from the individual that you were raised to be, and then also through your own, what would I call it, like your career path? You combine those three angles that you uniquely have. What are you seeing that we're missing the mark on in that regard?
Don't underestimate the value in learning and development opportunities for team members.
Okay.
I think surveying them and understanding what inspires and energizes them, and then providing opportunities to learn and grow is so critical, and follow through with those opportunities as well.
Yeah, we really tend to get tunnel vision. We get somebody, we find them, they're really good in a certain role, and man, we're like, that's it. Man, we got the person without ever digging into you're great at this. Is this what you want to do your whole life? And not turning that passion into something bigger and better. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've blown it, JJ. We might as well just cash it in.
Who says we haven't? They just have us on life support, don't they?
Yeah, good point.
I'm just kidding. Okay, let's mix it up a little bit. I want to go back and talk about your crazy drone background.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know, but we had Mark Taylor on, what was it, a couple episodes ago. Yeah.
Nice, okay.
And I'm sure you know Mark.
Yes, yeah.
And so, but we want to hear your drone stories.
Yeah.
Or passion or whatever happened. Because didn't you went on, tell the audience
you were
what you
the
did.
first exempt.
Sure. Yes,
Granted the first exempt.
Yes, Section 333. So
that sounds like a criminal case.
I know, yeah. It probably should have been.
Okay.
So I started with Small Giants. Actually, as like I said, operations assistant. Shortly into my tenure here, Danielle knew that I had the photography background, and we didn't have any sort of photo or video service that we
didn't?
offered.
Which is
No.
huge now,
Do you,
obviously.
hold
is.
it, do you now?
Oh yes.
Okay,
Yes.
naturally. Okay.
Yeah.
One of your
Yes.
one of your duties, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So she and I actually worked together on creating and developing that photography service.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys know Marshall Witzig from Edge Construction. He's another one of the Illinois
Yeah.
OGs.
Oh, geez.
Yes. So Marshall actually was our guinea pig, and he took me around the valley and let me photograph his project sites, and we built up a portfolio and then just went from there. And so right around the same time, drones were released, and we identified a need for drone photography and videography for construction. So we bought a drone at this hobby shop in Tempe, and I paid the
Classic
guy.
story.
Yes. I paid the guy behind the counter to teach me how to fly the drone at the park, because it's really like a video game, and I've never been a big video game person, and so I paid this guy behind the counter at Hobby Action in Tempe to teach me how to fly it. And that was great. And I would try to fly it at home too. I had 1 or 2 crashes.
Did you ever lose it?
Torrey Contracting, your full-service Division 9 contractor. Torrey Contracting operates with a smaller, hands-on team. This cohesive structure results in superior workmanship and economical solutions. We deliver projects with unsurpassed commitment to quality and stewardship of budget. Torrey Contracting, small enough to listen, big enough to deliver.
No, I didn't lose it. No, but the crashes were pretty devastating.
Okay.
Boy, she makes Mark look like a amateur. If Mark's listening, give him listen to this, because he crashed and burned big time on the
Yeah.
first one.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. There's nothing worse. So as that started to take off, that's when the FAA slapped down some pretty crazy regulations, and it was all temporary, but it was to help monitor and regulate the use of drones. And so they, at the time, had the Section 333 exemption, which was this insane application that we actually had to have an attorney review. So I crafted the application, put it in. 6 months later, got approved. So I was the first woman in the industry to be able to fly the drone legally.
Wow.
Yeah, which was a fun, exciting time.
She's got the trophy on her mantle at
Yes.
home.
Yeah, has the license. So take it from there. So now you utilize that in your marketing and building brands, et cetera.
Yes. And so that was around 2015, 2016. And we started doing photo, video with drone. And then as time went on, the demand for video became increasingly higher. And we started offering like training videos or onboarding videos and just like super simple kind of talking head videos. And those were received very well. There was greater demand. So then I started building a team, and we had a small team of 3. And one of the team members who I had hired on had animation capabilities too. And so then we added animation into the mix, and then we started using those videos for pursuits. So one of the services that Small Giants offers is interview prep and proposal development. And so when we're doing an interview prep, not only will we coach the teams to create their winning strategy, what their position is and overall align everyone, but we also will create the presentation, we'll do videos.
So is this for true RFP, RFQ type stuff? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought she was talking about there.
Yeah.
That's really cool, by the way.
It's so cool. It's so fun. And we do it both for public and private sector work.
Right.
And so, yes, that the demand for video just continued to grow and snowball. And right around the same time, I actually was pregnant with my youngest, my daughter, and I wanted to give staying at home a shot. So I left Small Giants, and I was gone for about 4 months, and then came back.
So much for that shot.
Yes. Yeah. So I think I meant to work. And so
I love it.
Yeah. So I came back and I actually got into business development because while I was building up the photo video service, I wanted to try to grow the revenue for that department as well. And so I immersed myself in a variety of industry associations and built my network and really loved doing that. And so when I came back as the client services manager doing business development and then strategic services.
If I can go back to your current client base and your allocation, could you give an idea of what percentage of your clients are utilizing all of your drone type stuff? I mean, just spitballing.
Yeah, I would say probably like 35% of our clients.
And then how, because you know, forgive me if I'm being too, what am I trying to say here? Too simplistic in pigeonholing, the contracting clients versus the
Commercial
real
real
estate. Yeah. Now, does the commercial real estate use it more or less?
Less with us.
Okay.
Yes. There's other vendors out there, and some of them will actually just go out and purchase their own drone,
Right.
whether or not it's legal.
Which we've talked about extensively on this program before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You answered the question. Sorry. I wasn't leading to anything. I think it's just for the audience's sake to understand, because I think everyone always gets very interested in like, oh, well, if we play by the rules, is it this? And if we don't play by the rules, it's over here. And we all know a lot of them don't play by the rules.
But I think that both of these industries are underutilizing the power of video.
Easily.
It's becoming, quickly becoming the go-to. You're seeing it more and more and more and more. I hear, there's people on social media that are talking about that we are entering the time where creativity is what's getting the attention, not necessarily the content,
Correct.
but the creativity and putting that content out there, which is going to catch the attention, et cetera. So I do think that the video, any of the multimedia stuff is just huge. Is it gaining steam? Is it becoming more and more requested or easily adopted?
Very much so. I mean, that's by far our fastest growing department at Small Giants. I think it's safe to say we've nearly doubled the revenue in that specific department every year since it started.
Let's go on networking for a second. Your networking, you do it clearly through trade associations and things of that nature. How about social media?
So I wish I was better at social media, and I should be better with my role. But social media is a very powerful networking tool. And one of the ways that we use it at Small Giants for our clients is we actually, not only do we manage company or firms' social media accounts, but we also will take over the accounts for executive team members and we'll post on their behalf because those are really the thought leaders of the company. And those are the ones who are influencing the recruiting efforts and the retention efforts and even their business development efforts. And so we'll go on there and we'll post on their behalf. And we only do it for select clients who we really understand who they are. We align well with their vision. We know their strategy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be effective.
Right.
But that's a really great tool.
Yeah. I'm finding that it's more so and more so. Yeah. Do you have something else?
No,
I was just, you were staring at me out of the corner of my eye. I could see him glaring at me like, oh, okay.
My admiration for your questions.
Tag, you're it. What doesn't work? What do you see? What do you see
the yellow pages.
People doing that doesn't work, that they're just hanging on to with everything they can?
Yeah. So one thing that I have really noticed, and specifically if we're looking at LinkedIn or social media, is companies or even like individuals from the leadership team try to, they almost are too buttoned up or professional. And actually, I went to Digital Summit out in San Francisco earlier this year, and I watched a really great seminar on best practices for executives on LinkedIn. And one of the biggest takeaways there was that people want to see the personal side. They want to know your interests. They want to know your hobbies. They want to see the human.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so important.
People like real, raw, ugly. They just
Exposure.
want to know you're a person.
They do.
Yeah,
Yes.
interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot like, and I don't mind name dropping here on this episode, because a lot of the things that we do on LinkedIn, which is our primary platform,
Yeah.
I think like how you transformed yourself into another brand doing that. I look at how Lorena always comments on, Lorena, she's in Florida, right? Acosta. Yeah. And so when I look at how she responds to all that kind of stuff too, Brianna, and when you look at the top performers on LinkedIn, it's all about their exposure, their vulnerability, their humility, call it what you want. So I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, I do too.
And then if you combine that with what you were saying before about the creativity, going into a little bit of the virtual game as well. I think you see when you're willing to go across a few of those thresholds, you don't go up like this. I mean, you're going up like this against the rest of the market share.
Yeah, I enjoy watching people that produce good content in the written word. They do good copywriting. They really do. And then all of a sudden, I see where they start trying video, and it's like they got it, and it really is pretty bad in some cases. I mean, you can tell, it's shaky camera. They don't. But they got it, and then they realize that just, having a conversation, even if you're just interviewing yourself, you're just dropping knowledge or whatever.
Well, look at a past, you might know him, Brad Levitt with AFT Construction. I mean, everyone knows him. And yet look at his video. He's been a guest on here before. He and Rod Cullum were on one of our early episodes. I mean, two very respected powerhouses in the
Luxury
valley
home
with
builders,
luxury homes, and to see what he has done, it's he's consistent. He always has the same, if not improved quality, time and time again with the video, and then like you said, that personal interface too, where he's narrating it or he's out on the job giving his insight. That is an instant and immediate credibility and connectivity as well.
Brianna, you agree?
Very much so.
So is
Yes.
that okay? So having said that, then what are you advising? Like if we were working together, then what would be the next step for someone like you advising me of, all right, JG, now you got to go to the next level. What's that? Without giving away all of Small Giant's secrets, right?
Yes, our secret sauce.
But because here's the reality, Brianna, is everyone's like, okay, what's Brianna willing to give away on this episode that's free, so that then they'll call you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it starts with a plan, understanding. It's kind of like if you had to put it into 3 different segments, it's knowing where you want to go, like long-term vision, having your action plan to get there, and then understand, like having the soul of the company, or you, like, who are you? What do you stand for? And what are your values? If those 3 things can all work together, then I think we figure out what's next, and mapping out a social media plan or a content calendar. And if we're looking at just like your own LinkedIn profiles, for example, I would look at, what are some of the projects that you can feature that differentiates you? How are we featuring your team and highlighting and celebrating the team members? What about the services that you offer and what differentiates you there? And then outside of that, how are you relatable? How can we connect to you? And if you have those things working in tandem, then, like you said, video is ideal. But even if it is the written word with a few visuals, that works too. I think it's nice to break up the content with a few different facets.
Well, I think about how you do kind of your daily.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to get your opinion on this, by the way. So I found very early on that, especially LinkedIn, that if all you're doing is talking about what you do work-wise, you get crickets. I mean, you might get 1,000 followers. People might pay attention. But if you do personal, if you, like myself, I'll do some motivational, some inspirational thing in the morning, first thing every day. I'll get 20,000 views on something like that. And the next day I'll post, may have something, or I'll repost something about this or work, 200 or 300 views. It's completely different. That's a tough one to get around. But what I did was, it was build the personal and then use the personal to promote the business piece. And then I find myself gravitating more and more and more away from the personal and bringing more of the business into it. It seems to be working, but have you any experience with any of that? Have you found that to be true?
Yes. And we've typically reversed it. Like it's almost business first and then tying into personal because we're typically coming in later in the game. We're not necessarily starting it.
Sure.
But if there's ways that you can tie the personal in to the business, that's like the best secret sauce is what books are you reading right now? Or what's a podcast that you're listening to or a show that you're watching that, there's something that you took away from John Dutton last night in Yellowstone that really ties into the business. You're going to protect this. Yes. Yeah. So like, how can you tie it into, your differentiators or a service that you're offering or a project that you're on, to always keep that tie. But it's so interesting. We have a client who we're working with. We just took over their executive LinkedIns, and one of the guys didn't even have a LinkedIn presence. And we took over in May. He's up to 210 followers now. Like, not only does he have connections, like 210 people are following him to get his content. And his most successful post was actually from Halloween, and it was an employee dressed up just like him, like full dress shirt, put like fake glasses on, wig, all the things. And he had 5,000 impressions. And people shared it. They loved it. But it was just such a neat, humanizing post.
Oh, that is you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize.
We're all kind of going.
Yes.
Thought it was a fire alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean heard it and was going, okay, is that on here or what's happening?
It's all good.
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff. Very good stuff. So do you find to drill back into this strategy, strategic planning, do you find that there are businesses that get into this and realize that they don't have any idea what they're about?
All the time.
They think they do, but as they dig into it, they just really have no idea.
Yes. Yeah. So often we'll get a call and someone just wants a new website or something small. And then as we dig in, it's like, well, if you're going to be investing in a new website or in social media or in this new brochure, let's make sure that the messaging's right and we know who we're getting in front of, why we're getting in front of them, and what we're telling them.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see. That whole part about the strategic planning has kind of hit me because I know I was one of those, and I know a lot of people that got into the business that just strategic plan. I want to make a bunch of money, and I know how to build stuff. So here we go, and yeah, there you stop.
So I'm going to go down the boring part of the conversation. How is data and analytics changing what you guys do?
Yeah, it's
uplifting, but it's also scary because it dehumanizes a lot of things. But yet without it, you're wasting dollars and all those kind of things. So how are you bridging that with all this culture stuff?
Yes. I don't know that it does dehumanize. I mean, the way that we use data analytics the most is monitoring website performance and seeing where people are spending their time on your website, how they're responding to the different media that you have there. And then through paid ads. We do a lot of digital ads on social media and just through search ads, things of that nature.
Does it work?
It does.
Oh, yeah, it works.
Very well. Yes. And some of it is a little Big Brother-esque. Like, it's pretty crazy how targeted you can get and who you're advertising to.
That's why I got into it. We'll jump into that in a minute. Yeah,
yes.
But you can mention Google.
No, I'm not even just talking about Google. You finish, and then I'll tell you the story that tied into that.
I'm very excited to hear this. And we're monitoring the keywords and the performance there, and that's actually where it gets really fun because sometimes you have to change keywords out every few days, or we can geo-target a big event. Like we just had Construction Career Days, last week or the week before?
Yes.
And there's some great opportunity there to get in front of high school students who are scrolling through Instagram or might Google, how much does a career in electrical contracting pay? Trying to find what those search terms are and leveraging them, and then seeing how they perform and pivoting. It's actually really fun.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Yeah, it just fascinating. So we just recently hired a social media specialist. And I took this young man to lunch last Thursday.
Did you pay for it at least?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
And
That was so nice of you.
yeah, yes, there's another story behind that too, but
Oh,
we'll leave
gosh.
that alone. But, and I'm 61, I think. I'm ancient.
I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the age. And so, but I tend to think at times, oh, okay, I kind of get it. I'm a pretty savvy dude. He started explaining to me with ads how specific they can be targeted, and it was like a little scary, And he starts, you have 3 kids and 2 are boys and 1's a girl. I mean, we can drill it in. And I said, you're telling me you can do an ad and it'll pop up on that if I fit that? He said, that's exactly how it works. So it's not just an ad that like we all seem to think we get on there and everybody on Instagram seeing the same ad.
But but remember on another episode too, I don't know where we got into all this crazy biometric data.
Mm-hmm.
Once all that gets out there, and it's there already, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
When you start buying that kind of data and let's see what the big companies have, it's going to get freaky.
Yeah, it was
It's
amazing to me.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
But
deep.
that's what you're talking about when you talk about targeting those ads, really digging into the demographics of who your buyers and who the people you do business with, but that works. See, I've never done it. I've never been a proponent of it. Just age, probably. But
the companies you've worked for have done it, have they not? Really?
yeah, no, they haven't. Part of it's come up in conversation, but it's like, hey, we're in construction. How am I going to target somebody that we're a metal stud fabricator?
Right.
And how am I going to target somebody that's going to buy our? I said, well, we're multifamily. That's who we chase. Hotel, hospitality, senior living, start there and start drilling into the directors of construction, to all the different things, and you'll get there. But they just don't. It's just not thought that way. It's changing. It is changing the way we do business.
So full disclosure, we've gotten kind of deep into it, and there's been sidebar discussions with Brianna and their organization. Timing wasn't the best at that time, but anyway, long story short was when we launched our service divisions not too long ago, we're deep into all that in the analytics. That being said, Brianna, I think coming through your voice versus what I'm going to ask the question only to kind of tee it up, but on where Robert's going down here is, can you explain to the audience like the negative words, as they call them, and how that works as well? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how that works.
Yeah. So the way that we're more B2B, so we don't necessarily track that as much, but we will be looking at negative sentiments. So
Right.
our reporting software can actually pull, for example, like, let's just say Blue Wave. Like if someone's on Reddit and they write it's a disgruntled employee and they write something like Blue Wave sucks or whatever it is, they have
Which they do.
words that are associated with a negative sentiment. And
He's kneeing me under the table right now.
this is all hypothetical. No one is writing this.
Okay.
It's all good.
But they can actually track the negative sentiment. So if there's damage control that needs to be done, or positive PR, or if we're doing some sort of like online reputation audit, like if it's through your Google reviews and things like that, where it's really critical to have a positive presence, you know where it's coming from and what the overall sentiment of the brand
That is just amazing to me.
Well, so I think this is really, and again, I'll put myself and our company on the line here, because I think it's a great lesson for everyone. You talk about being vulnerable and humble. We're not perfect. No one is. And we made a mistake. I don't know. So like, let's say 2 weeks ago in one of our divisions, we made a mistake. Lady called us out on it. And immediately, though, at least our team jumped on it, got a hold of it.
Took ownership.
Not only that, remedied the situation, not even 180, but beyond 180, if that's even mathematically possible, to where now that turned from a negative into almost like a glowing positive. And, so if I can fall on the sword and tell you, don't discount that, don't ignore it, jump on it, all of you listen.
And I think it is discounted greatly.
Well, it's
because nobody wants to know the negative. Everybody wants to act like it doesn't exist.
You always hear that, we as leaders and in the management world, it's anyone can do the easy stuff, right? It's how you react and how you overcome the bad stuff defines you. Back to what Brianna was talking about. What does your culture say about you and your organization and your recruitment of other people? If you can have that humility of you're not perfect, but we correct our mistakes better than most. I mean, you've already beaten 90% of your competition.
Yeah.
Agreed?
No, I absolutely agree. And if you don't know that it exists,
then you're even more
Yes.
head in the sand.
Yeah.
Any other stories along those lines, like how, or especially from your standpoint about how you help as a CMO with other companies?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty, but I would say
too many to share.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have not really had to cross the line of like the negative sentiments quite yet. One thing that we do is the online reputation audits, though, and we'll check like Google reviews and Indeed and Glassdoor, especially to make sure that they're positive.
What do you do if they're not?
Then we work on kind of like doing what you're talking about, JJ, is if reaching back out to the whomever left the review and make like, is there anything you can do to fix it or make it right? Or is it just kind of a lost cause? Is it a disgruntled employee who wasn't a good fit?
Or a client, either one.
Right. Yes. And then either, try to make good with them or also try to get more reviews in the door to help balance out that average.
Sure.
Question I've always wanted to ask you is, I know when I first heard about you, your name, and Small Giants, it seemed, and I don't want this to be negative, it's almost a compliment, like how myopic you were, that you're CMO to only commercial real estate and contracting, so to speak. Do you have a lot of competition in that space? And for the audience's sake, you are not just in Arizona. You're regional and national, correct? Currently?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we do have an office out in Denver, and we are currently working on some strategic business development plans and looking at some other markets to have a more permanent fixture. But there really is not much competition. There are a few firms or one-man shops who specialize in the industry, but oftentimes it's, even if they specialize, construction or commercial real estate is maybe 40% of their clientele, and they do venture out. Whereas our big differentiator is that we're fully immersed in this world all the time, and your clients are our clients too. And so we know every level of the industry. Like
how about the, and again, I apologize to the audience that we've only been focusing on those two. What about architects and engineers? Now, do you represent a lot of those firms as well?
Yes, yes. Okay. So AEC, yeah. When I'm talking about contract, it's that full AEC umbrella.
What have we not asked you that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
That's a good question too. What about pursuits? Like, let's talk about some of the pursuit trends and how COVID totally changed the face of interviews and.
Let's do it.
Go it.
Yes.
You have a platform.
Yeah. So COVID did totally change the face of interviews.
Yes.
And in 2020, our creative director, Brennan Gurley, actually had a background in live streaming and podcast production and video. And he was actually who came on as my replacement to run the visual media team when I took my 4-month yes.
Yeah.
Family sabbatical.
Yes. Yeah.
Child rearing.
Right. So anyway, he helped us really respond to that need, and we started doing virtual productions for interviews where we'd go to a client office. Sometimes we do green screen. Sometimes we'll just do like a really nice staged backdrop. And that's when all of those animations started coming into play, really compelling presentations. And then now we're doing modeling in VDC as well. But seeing how COVID transformed the face of an interview has been so neat. And even just to see what is still preserved today in those trends, like you can't go in without a presentation with without videos and animations and an animated site logistics plan and models of the project.
Is that what you're doing with the VDC? In working with that?
Yes.
Showing models of the building, things of that nature?
Yes.
Or project, not necessarily building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. That is really, it really is changing the marketplace.
It's crazy, and it's actually a new service that we're really starting to dive into. And I can't speak to it as intelligently as Brennan can, but we have clients now who are interested in AR and VR. Yeah. So where we're going out and we're actually like, you can take an iPad out to the site and be, point in time in the place and just scan the iPad and you'll see exactly what the plans will live out to be. It's
fascinating technology that I believe is going to become more and more important. We've talked about it again here.
We've
having engineers across.
I'm glad we're still talking about it a bit, but we have probably approached this subject at least a half a dozen times on other.
And I don't think we've done enough.
No, we haven't. But I can think of, again, without mentioning names, I know one of your clients that I saw a current one that they did, and it was spot on. And I was like, oh, they're getting it. Mm-hmm. I was proud because to me that's our industry getting over a paradigm block, if you want to call it that. So I was like, cool. And I knew you guys were behind it. I'm like, hey, way to go, Small Giants, and way to go, Building X, one of my friendly competitors. And because it was like, oh, cool, they're finally getting it. And that was very uplifting for me because then I can see that we're being transformative in a space that we typically weren't. As the AEC world goes.
And to be able to do the things with it that you can, and having consultants that are on the other side of the world, be able to see things real time, and it's just, to me, the whole thing's fascinating.
Okay, so what else was on that?
On your list of things to...
What aren't we asking you? Like what?
That was a great one, by the way. That was such gold. We had to throw it at you again.
You did that one well.
Thanks.
But as far as you or Small Giants, is there any other cascading message you want to get out to the audience?
Yeah. So outside of, I know we talked about recruiting campaigns, we actually offer recruiting as a service too. And I think that is often overlooked or maybe not even realized, but Small Giants does offer recruiting for select positions, but we have such a vast network now that we do recruiting, and we've had some really great, valuable placements for many of our clients.
Good stuff.
What do you think, Robert? You got anything else?
I don't. Anything interesting about you? What do you do for fun?
Other than work.
Yes. Yeah. So
and take 4 month sabbaticals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So lots of kids. So between my spouse and I, we have 4 kids altogether. So it's
4 kids. Ages?
Yes. 2 are 10 and 2 are 4.
Oh.
How do you make that work out? Isn't that incredible? Yeah, that's got to be pretty neat.
That's the perfect Brady bunch right there.
The 2 4-year-olds?
Yeah, and they're both boy, girl, and then boy, girl.
No way.
Yeah, so we have the bigs and the littles is what we call them.
That's too funny. Yeah, that's home run right there.
Yeah, they're
you
super
guys playing
fun.
that well.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? Besides work.
And manage what we call the chaos train with much love. Exercising is kind of my way to get me time. Mm-hmm. And I watch Yellowstone.
I took that a moment ago. I shoot softball this and we didn't take it, but anything else, JJ? How about you?
No, I just, in closing, it's always cool because your family story is cool. I think it's what's the word, symbolic of kind of the growth of the Phoenix market knowing the story about the Illinois expat thing, and then your grandfather, your father, you, even some of the things that we didn't share about your family. It's just cool because it just resonates with me every time we have a guest on that Phoenix is America's smallest big town.
Really is.
Yeah, and so the connectivity just never stops. So thank you, Brianna, for being on today, and we'll see you next week.
That's it. Take us out of here.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Torrey Contracting and Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tune in live every first and third Thursday at 3 p.m. as we continue to introduce you to the people building Arizona. Walt Disney said, "You can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make the dream a reality." Until next time, make it a great day.